All right, we're working really hard to get this guy back on because we have so many questions to ask our insider, Matt Zenitz. Matt, let's start with Alabama wide receiver, Ja'Corey Brooks. He hit the portal today, so what's the latest on his transfer?
Well, first of all, sorry for the technical issues. Phone didn't want to cooperate. Computer didn't want to cooperate. My wife's computer didn't want to cooperate. I'm just glad to able to make it work and get on.
Yes.
all that matters. Ja'Corey Brooks. So Ja'Corey Brooks was somebody who came into the year that, as somebody who NFL scouts had on the radar as a legitimate first-round possibility. And it was strange throughout the course of the season that just did not have much of an impact for Alabama whatsoever. Went from having close to 700 yards, 8 touchdowns in 2022 to finishing this year with, I want to say, 3 catches total. So naturally, there was a lot of speculation with other schools that he could end up going to the portal, decides to make that move today. And even though he had a down year for Alabama this year, there are a number of high-profile programs that I know already are very much monitoring that situation and interested in Ja'Corey.
Let's go to the quarterbacks because they really are the stars of the show of this transfer portal. DJ Uiagalelei, the former Clemson and Oregon State quarterback, has been already linked to a few programs, but what can you tell us as far as how his portal recruitment's going so far?
Yeah, I would throw out 2 schools right now worth keeping an eye on. So one being Florida State. Florida State's a school that seems like Cam Ward, DJU, a couple of the guys that they think the highest of at this point in terms of portal quarterback options. But to go along with that, Mississippi State's an interesting one because you have an offense now under Jeff Levy where we've seen just the kind of success that not only they've had in terms of his offenses as a whole, but specifically at the quarterback position, going back to Ole Miss and this year at Oklahoma with Dillon Gabriel. And I think that adds a level of attractiveness to somebody like DJ. Louisville was another option, but obviously we saw in recent days that they landed a commitment from another portal quarterback in Tyler Shuck, which I would think would take them off the board as an option for DJ.
Those ACC schools are interesting. I remember talking to Carl Reed on the show Monday saying that revenge should be a factor in finding your transfer portal destination. I want to ask about another quarterback looking for program number 3, Dillon Gabriel, and it sounds like the team of the moment is Oregon. What are you hearing?
Same exact thing as you. So we're very much on the same page.
I get my information from you, Matt. I hope you know that.
Well, everything continues to trend towards Oregon. So that's just one where it seems like a very good fit just for both sides. So Dillon should be visiting Oregon at some point in the near future. And based on all of the information that I continue to get, even though there are a number of different programs around the country that are interested in Dillon, I would say that the Ducks remain in a very strong position right now.
All right. How about former Wazoo quarterback Cam Ward, another name generating a lot of buzz? What programs have emerged as early favorites to land him?
That's funny. It's hard to get a feel on early favorites. I just know there have been like double-digit schools that have come up as possibilities at different points, even before Cam went into the portal, just because there was naturally speculation from other schools around the country just about the possibility of him going in. So since he's officially been in, there have been a number of different places that have come up, schools out in what was formerly the Pac-12 that obviously have had a chance to face him the last couple of years, the Washingtons, the USCs, the Oregons of the world, but starting to hear more and more about some programs even on the complete other end of the country at this point that very much have an awareness of the ability that Cam has. And obviously mentioned Florida State having him high on their quarterback board at this point. Miami's another one that I know thinks extremely highly of Cam. And there are some other programs to go along with that where he's going to have no shortage of opportunities. But I don't have a great feel right now. Like if I were handicapping it, I wouldn't be sure right now just who to give the best odds to as of yet. I wish I had a better answer for you.
No, it's all right. I mean, Cam Ward is a guy that was not highly recruited coming out of high school, so it sounds like he's taking full advantage of round 2 with that recruitment, or I guess round 3 since this is his second transfer. Okay, I promise this is my last question. My last question is it pertains to the quarterback position. I do have more questions. Former Mississippi State quarterback Will Rogers, just incredibly productive in the SEC, but where could he potentially finish out his college career?
So there's been interest from schools like Miami, some other ones to go along with that. Washington continues to be in a strong position here. It seems like even within the last couple of days that there's been continued dialogue, continued communication with Washington. Washington, that's one where if you were handicapping it, I would feel very good right now continuing to handicap or give the best odds to Washington in terms of Will Rogers and a potential landing spot.
Washington. All right, let's do it. Let's hit on some non-quarterbacks. Who are some prospects whose names just continually come up when you talk to your sources?
Yeah, so one interesting one, I would say, is Rocket Sanders, the running back from Arkansas. So he officially went in, I want to say yesterday. My days kind of run together at this point, so maybe it was 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday. But Rocket had a huge 2022 for Arkansas. It was first team All SEC, ran for 1,400 yards, had double-digit touchdowns, and unfortunately for him this year just dealt with injuries and was not the same player. The 2023 tape was just not the same as that 2022 tape, but at the same time, he is still a guy that people have not forgotten what he did last year, and South Carolina is one of the early schools to keep an eye on with him, where we actually reported yesterday that they have a visit locked in with him. I think it starts on Sunday, if I remember correctly. He has a connection there with their offensive coordinator, Dow Loggins, who was at Arkansas with him. So there will be other schools to go along with South Carolina that I'm sure we'll try to get in the mix, but that is, based on what things sound like right now, what is going to be his first visit since going into the portal.
All right, just for fun, among the thousands of names that are out there, who is a player that entered the portal that surprised you?
Yeah, I would say to piggyback off of, obviously, Trevor Etienne going in today, that one was not necessarily a surprise because that had been in the works for a little while, but one of his teammates, Princely Umanmielen, and I deserve a lot of credit for getting the last name correctly. I took practice to make sure that I wasn't mispronouncing that. But Princely is one who I'm big on trying to have a feel for just how NFL scouts view guys and what the grades are throughout the course of the year. And Princely, based on his play the last couple of years at Florida, had legitimately put himself in a position where if he came out and turned pro this year, we would have a legitimate shot at going in the first 3 or 4 rounds of the NFL draft. Has been one of the better players for Florida defensively during the course of the last couple of years. And my assumption all along had been that Princely was just going to be leaving and going to the NFL. And that was one, as much as I pride myself on trying to stay on top of things from an information standpoint, I had heard zero rumblings whatsoever about the possibility of Princely going into the portal prior to him making that announcement. I will say, he indicated on Twitter or X or whatever we feel like is best to call it at this point, that I guess there's an openness to returning to Florida. I saw something from him about that. I don't know what it would take for Billy Napier to get him back there, but that was one, even with all the craziness this week, that would probably be at the top of the list for me in terms of surprises. And just to circle back real quick to the previous question, so I threw out Rocket Sanders as one that's garnering some traction right now, and a guy who definitely has some buzz and has schools interested. Another running back that's more under the radar that went in today that people definitely need to be aware of, that schools are very much interested in, Nate Noel from Appalachian State. So not to overdo it with talking about the NFL scouting grades, but Nate is somebody who came into this year, even being at a G5 program, that NFL scouts consistently had him in like the midday 3 type range as a 2024 NFL draft prospect. Midday 3 meaning like 5th, 6th round. Had done great stuff at App State the last couple of years. Had something like 3,000 career rushing yards. And I was texting with a Power 5 running back coach within the last hour or so, who's at a top 25 level program, whose text after watching Nate's tape was something along the lines of, that's a really good player. He's going to have some big interest, even though he's more of an under the radar type guy right now.
Yeah, I actually had an App State game this year, and he put on like 25 pounds of muscle as well in the offseason and trying to get ready for the NFL. So that is a very interesting name hitting the portal. Just in case, you know, I have this great comment. I actually want to bring this up. Bless and Breaks commented that your Wi-Fi hit the transfer portal. So when that happened earlier in the show, A, thank you everybody for sticking with us. B, you were telling us about Trevor Etienne. So if you don't mind just telling the people what the latest is on the Florida running back hitting the portal.
Yeah, so an unfortunate development for Florida. They were aware of the possibility of this. Billy Napier, as I'm sure you can imagine, had been trying to prevent this from happening, but it was no secret inside the Florida building that this was a real consideration for Trevor, and then pulls the trigger today, decides to go into the portal. And I would say some of the early schools to keep an eye on for him would be the Georgias of the world. Georgia's going to be interested. I've heard some buzz about LSU. Yeah, you have a natural connection there with Clemson. I know Dabo hasn't gone big in the portal by any means the last few years, but you have the connection there with his brother, who obviously had a ton of success. But he's going to have no shortage of options or opportunities. And even though it was a tough year for Florida, Trevor still ran for right around 800 yards and continued to show flashes to where he is clearly one of the top offensive players in the portal at this point.
He's definitely a bright spot on that offense, and you, as always, are a bright spot on any transfer portal program that we do. Matt, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Glad we could get through this without any more technical issues.
We did it. And just for a good laugh, go ahead and check the chat. The Wi-Fi jokes are just fantastic because nobody has ever dealt with Wi-Fi issues. Yeah, okay. Just a reminder, we continue to do our college football recruiting show on Mondays. So be sure to tune in to get the latest on all things recruiting, again, ahead of signing day on the 20th.